We're going to have a quick look at our cucumbers again today, and we're also going to remind ourselves of which ones need the male flowers removing and which ones don't. My cucumbers definitely took a little bit longer than usual to establish this year, and now I think that what I've done is water them not quite enough within their pots. Within the soil blocks that I usually use, they dry out quite easily, so it's a bit easier to actually manage the water levels on them, and I think that just left them a little bit stunted actually. And then after that, we had a little bit of colder weather after I did plant them into the polytunnel, but they are now getting going and looking really healthy. The variety that we are growing is Tamra, and this is an open pollinated variety that requires both the male and the female flowers to be present. So we don't need to actually remove any of those in order to make sure that the pollination is correct and that we don't get any bitter fruits. If, however, you're growing a variety that is a female only variety and it does produce some male flowers, then you are going to want to remove them. The male flowers are the flowers that just have a stem behind them, and the female flowers have the tiny little spiky cucumbers behind the flower as well. To help these plants get a little bit more established, and although this is a little bit later than what I would normally be expecting to do it, I'd probably really be expecting to have the first couple of fruits by now. What I am going to do is actually remove the bottom foot of any flowers that are on there, just to give any that are further up that little bit of a boost to get going. This will also usually take off the ones that are going to naturally die anyway. We do usually find that the first ones that are produced aren't pollinated correctly and will just die anyhow. And then the other thing that we can also be doing at this point is popping another seed in just beside these plants, and that they will then take over when these plants are starting to not produce as much as they will do. And I've actually forgotten to save some seeds, so I'm not going to be doing it this year, but now is a great time to just pop that other seed in if you do want to. I would use the same variety if you can, or if you've got some other varieties, then you could just start them as we did before, so head back to when we were sowing the seeds and then pop them into a different location. But if you're doing the same ones and you're doing it next to these plants, then you're just going to pop a seed in next to where they are currently, and then when the older plants are getting a little bit older and not doing as well, you can just chop them off, and then the newer plants can either trail along the bottom of the bed, or you can start training them up as well, and that should then give you a little bit of a later harvest that we otherwise wouldn't get. So this is what the plants are looking like at the moment. So they're probably getting to around 3 foot tall. This one is the one that had the roots that were struggling, and actually, interestingly, this one is actually a little bit bigger than the one down the other end of the polytunnel. So what you're going to be able to see is that we are now starting to see some flowers. So this is just a flower, this doesn't have a cucumber behind it. And then further up, we've got some with the cucumbers on as well. So as I said, these need both the male and the females to actually produce the fruit, but that may be different with the variety that you're growing. So all I'm going to be doing today is removing any of these bottom flowers. So there's a cucumber here, you might be able to see. So I'm going to remove the cucumber. So this is a female flower. So I'm just removing any flowers below this cucumber at this point, and then this should really help the rest of them establish and get pollinated a little bit better. So there's a female flower there, so that will be the next one that will produce the cucumber for us, and then there's a male flower that I've left on down there, and another male flower there as well. So in each of these junctions, what we're going to find is a male flower, a female flower, and then we will also find some side shoots that start producing as well. So this side shoot down here is going to make an additional branch, and that will be absolutely fine if we have the space in order to do that. But in the polytunnel, I don't want those, so I'm just going to twist them off. Make sure that they are big enough before you do it. There is no point doing it when they are really young. And then this is the one at the other end of the polytunnel, so we can see we've got a couple of cucumbers forming there. We've got a male flower that will start producing a little bit further down there. Side shoots are just starting on this one. You can just see there's one here next to this female flower. I'm going to do the same as I did before and just remove the bottom foot of any flowers off of this one. And any yellowing leaves that you've got right at the bottom, we can also remove those as well if we want to. This is a little seedling of a different variety, but it's maybe a little bit easier to show you. So each of the leaf joints is where we're going to find the flowers, both male and female. They can come at different times. So you'll often find the female will come first and then the male will come later. And this is also then where we're going to find the suckers or the additional plants that we want to remove. If you are growing them outside and in pots and you've got room, then by growing them you may end up with more cucumbers. So it's entirely up to you if you have the space of whether or not you want to leave them on or take them off. You may have cucumbers that are starting to ripen before mine are going to be ready. So some of the things that we want to look out for whether or not they are ready is that you're going to start seeing some rounding at the blossom end, to the end that isn't attached to the plant. We also want to pick them while they're smaller and they're nice and green. If they're starting to yellow, then they're starting to produce seeds and they're going to get a bit tough. You also can find with a lot of homegrown cucumbers that the skin is going to be a little bit tougher. So actually peeling the skin before you eat it is necessary, and they also can have little bits of spikes on them. These little spikes are very easy to remove. You're just going to get a old tea towel and give it a little bit of a wipe round, and then they'll be absolutely fine. To remove them from the plant, just twisting the fruit will allow the stem to snap, or you can grab a pair of scissors and just cut them off. From there, I tend to pop them into some very cold water and then into the fridge after that. Some people find that they're absolutely fine sitting on a side and that they'll keep longer that way. I've definitely found popping them into an old bread bag is the easiest way to keep them fresh. We will have another look at that once mine are starting to produce, and we will also have a look at freezing them as well for things like smoothies.